Hello again. In this lecture, we're going to be talking about creating and filing your visual elements. I know that shooting video is probably something that's new to a lot of you. You will be having a lecture by Professor Donchess the second day of class on using the cameras. And then on the third day of class, we're going to have you go out in groups and practice using it. And then submit that to us so we can look it over and give you some feedback. But since you will be training as a multimedia journalist in this course, we think it's important that you have those lessons because that's pretty much what the entire industry is calling for nowadays, people to be familiar with both. Abigail created a little PowerPoint of sorts. Why am I not seeing it here? Let me go back and look for it. Oh, can I get it from there? I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. Hold on 1 second. I might have to download this and start all over, right? Screen. I can't do it. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so the multimedia basics, and I can start presenting right now, I believe. Okay, journalism workshop. So we've already, if we haven't already told you in class, you'll find out that you will be filing your stories, your print stories, and then your copy for your broadcast stories through Google Docs. We use Google Docs. You have to create a Gmail account to do so. And there's information on that on the syllabus. And again, we'll be talking about that in class. For the broadcast element, so the actual video and sound that you'll be turning in, it's a little bit different. If you go into your Outlook email at YSU and you see this little grid up in the upper left-hand corner, the 9 dots, you'll want to click on that, and it gives you the choices of the different apps that YSU makes available to us. And you will see SharePoint, and SharePoint is the one that's been made for us to be able to use it for this very sort of thing. So within that, you will see a site for communication student media. And we have designated a folder in there that is specifically for workshop students. You'll see that, the journalism workshop, and you could probably make that a favorites page on your browser so that you can get to it a lot easier. And then within that itself, you will see where it's, there's categories specifically for Jambar employees to be uploading things. And I know a few of you are Jambar employees. You're probably familiar with this already. But just stick with me because I'm going to go over some video elements that you might not know. And then the journalism workshop. And then, oops, I didn't mean to do that yet. Okay. So within there, you will find Sydney, who is our executive producer for Jambar TV this semester, is creating folders for fall 2021, which we are in. And there are things for the red team and for the white team. And if you haven't seen where you're assigned, that is already in Blackboard as of August 20th. But I probably will be emailing it to you today as well. So you'll know that then. The red team and the white team. And then within there, the specific deadlines that you have to meet, and you'll click into that as well. And that's where you will, be dropping in your information. Oh, and sorry, your folder title that you create for each of yours should be your first and last name and your story title, or often called story slug. And do not upload your files as zipped. It won't work as well for the editors who are pulling it down. And so then I wanted to, if you have any questions about that, ask us about it. But it's fairly simple once you get into it. So now I wanted to look a little bit at how you will be shooting information. You might remember back from your News 1, there are the wide shots or long shots where you get a whole bunch of visual elements in it. There are medium shots where you shoot people. There are close-ups like the one we see here. you want to try to make sure that you look at what you're framing, not only on the small little screen on your camera, but also in person, because you see what Fox 8, which is a professional organization, did here. Look how that angel is sitting, and it's just the way they had the angle there. Had they just moved their camera over to the right a little bit and looked at it, it would have looked totally different. But then you've got something that make people laugh, and this wound up as a meme on Facebook and went viral and everything like that. So if we can avoid that with our stuff, we want to do that. And if we obviously see it, we might ask you to go reshoot it, or we just won't use the information. And you don't want to get to that point. That maybe your VOSOT or your package turns into a VO because we can't use elements that you shot. So try to be cognizant of what's going on around you, even when you're taking photographs for the paper. And sometimes it's very, very difficult. You just can't see things until you get them up on your computer screen. So that's one of the reasons when you're taking pictures, you want to take as many as possible and try to take them, move a little bit, move 5 feet to the right or 5 feet to the left, get a different perspective, get a different angle on it. That way, sorry, that's my dog barking. That way, if you do have a problem with something, you've got a backup for it. And then when you're shooting for broadcasting, you want to make sure that there aren't windows behind the people, because otherwise it will backlight them, and they will turn out dark, or that there's a light glaring over the front of them. It might wash them out, things like that. And there are sometimes things you can't really tell when you're doing the actual shooting. So you want to be aware that those things happen, so that you don't line up your shot that way accordingly. So when it comes to a VO, and hopefully you've already watched the segment that I taped on constructing your stories, you'll remember that a VO is a voiceover. It's the shortest element in your broadcast stories that you'll be writing. It's usually about 20-25 seconds. It's something that the anchor on the set will be reading of your copy. It's still going to tell the who, what, when, where, why, how of your big story, just in a much more condensed version. And it's going to have probably 15 to 20 seconds of video that you've shot with B-roll to go along with it. That's going to be shown to the audience. So this is just some information here that it gives you the idea. And you see here, it says steady B-roll. We want to absolutely stress to you, no zooms, no pans. If you're getting people walking, make sure you're far enough away so that you see them walking in your shot without you having to follow them with the camera. What happens is with those kinds of shots, unless you're extremely skilled at this, usually we go much too fast, or they tend to be jerky when they go. And when they're too fast, they give people motion sickness actually watching it. It's just too difficult. So you want to have steady shots. And again, you can take wide shots, medium shots, close-up shots of different things. And I'm going to be showing you some examples of those things. And you're going to see a couple of shots in here where people did move their camera a little bit, and you'll see how distracting that is to the viewer as well. And when you're doing this, and we have all this information on the syllabus as well, what the requirements are, but you need to collect several different shots for us to use, because we don't stay on the shot for a long time. It's a few seconds on one shot, a few seconds on another shot, that sort of thing. And you really want to try to use the video to augment your storytelling. It's also telling a story, so that if, let's say, somebody's sound went off, they could still have an idea of what your story is about by the visual elements that they see to tell that story. It's just another tool. And you might remember the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. That's what you want to strive for. Now, you can't always find perfect B-roll, perfect visual elements to match your copy verbatim. To really tell the story, you really do need that copy of somebody reading it. But you definitely want the visual elements that accompany it to augment it as much as possible. So we're going to watch a video right here that is from Jambar TV from a couple of years ago.
Brandon Brown. YSU's head football coach, Bo Pelini, is headed to LSU. Pelini signed a 3-year deal to be the defensive coordinator with the defending national champions. During his time at YSU, he led the Penguins to a national championship in 2016. While at YSU, he posted a record of 33-28, and he secured his 100th career collegiate win as head coach in the 2019 season.
Now you see there's no way you don't know that story's about Bo Pelini, right? Because Bo Pelini showed up in every shot. You did see that little bit of camera movement, and I think it was more somebody might have banged into their tripod than they were necessarily trying to do the movement. So you always want to be careful of that too. Step back away from your camera if you can. Make sure you're standing to the side of it, because any little bump is going to show up in your video and it can be distracting. And one thing I just thought of when I was doing that too, if you're shooting somebody in front of glass, oftentimes the reflection will be in the background. You want to watch out for that, especially since you can show up with the camera in that shot as well. So you want to be cognizant of that. I know better, and I just did that about a year ago in something I was shooting for my other job. So, it's easy to forget, it's easy to make mistakes. If it's a still shot, you can usually smear yourself out of it. But if it's video, you're stuck with what you've got. So now we're going to look at, well,
Brandon
maybe
Brown.
not. Why is that going
YSU's
still?
head
A VOSOT. So remember, a VOSOT is voiceover sound on tape. And that's something where you want to include one of your sources, because they are the expert and they really add more to the story than just having your anchor reading the facts that you have given them to read that go along with your B-roll. So as Abigail said, it's usually one interview. Every so often you've got back-to-back bites, but not usually. The anchor reads the intro and the outro. And she's saying, notice the framing of the shots, notice the interview setting, and how relevant the B-roll is to the actual story. So I'm going to roll this now.
The overall membership in Greek life is down by 0.22% from the fall to spring semester. Sororities continue to gain members, but fraternities are struggling to grow. The competitive nature of recruitment and the demographics on campus factor into the decrease. 89% of YSU students commute, and 20% of YSU students are non-traditional. Here's Clay Miller, president of Sigma Tau Gamma.
People who commute, maybe most of them are in a situation where they maybe don't have quite enough money to spend on this kind of stuff, because they may be commuting from home in order to save money already. They may be working a job or two, all the while going to school, maybe even raising families or supporting other people in their. I think there's a lot of people at Youngstown State wear a lot of hats. And I think there's a lot more responsibility that our students have here, and they may not have enough time to give to a chapter.
What started as an idea.
Now, one thing with that, you notice that that bite went on for a very long time. Usually you don't want your sound bite to go on that long. Optimum is 5 to 10 seconds for a bite. 15 is pushing it, but you see how they were able to take B-roll and cover up some of that. So it wasn't just sitting there watching Clay sitting there on a chair talking. You always want to have different elements, different movement, by taking different shots. And you also notice how the person who shot that, I do think it was actually Abby who shot that, was limited on what she could shoot. But so she had a wide shot of the fraternity house. She had a close-up shot of the Greek letters. She had a shot of the pink mailbox, that sort of thing. And we had to loop that because she was limited on her visual elements, but it made it work by taking different angles, wide, medium, close-ups of the different, the same things that she had to shoot. So then we're going to go on to.
The overall membership in Greek life is down by 0.22%.
We're going to go on to a package. And a package is the largest of the broadcast elements that you'll be creating. Again, a package is usually has at least three sound bites in it. It usually runs about 1:15 with an intro that's about 10 seconds long. If you can get it to a minute with that 10-second intro, that's fine. Sometimes they have tags, which are information at the end after the package is completely done, where it comes back to the anchor and they read something, or maybe there's a graphic that's shown where the anchor reads something. So what you're going to see with this is an introduction, which is the part where the anchor is on set and reads something about the story. Then it goes to the actual package itself. This example is a little bit different because for the most part with Jambar TV, we have been having the reporters shoot stand-ups immediately to start the packages. So when you do yours, it will go from the anchor reading to open with a shot of you standing there saying some information that introduces the story, different than what the anchor said, of course, more authoritative, because you are the person who is assigned to that story. And then sometimes there are stand-up closes. You don't have to do both. You can do one or the other. When it comes time to doing your package, we will help you with these stand-ups. We'll help you with all of those elements. But I want you to see basically how a package goes. And again, like I said in the writing for broadcast and TV lecture, I want you to watch TV and watch for these things. Watch Jambar TV and watch for these things. Obviously, you will be constructing your stuff to go with Jambar TV style. So that's the one that you really want to learn. But you also want to be familiar with how other stations are doing these sorts of things. And in fact, a great thing to do would be if you could like watch 27 and TiVo 21 and look for a big story of the day and look at the different ways both stations constructed that same story, or even maybe national news. Look at how maybe some of the big five, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and Fox all did the same story, the way they constructed the shots and the different elements. You're going to find a lot of similarity, but you might find some differences that give you some different ideas on how you can do this. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this story as well.
And I'm Thomas Kushner.
Jamel Johnson was a business management student at YSU, soon to graduate on the track to success. He was at an off-campus fraternity party on February 6, 2011, when the unthinkable happened.
A group of armed party attendees opened fire and shot and killed YSU student Jamel Johnson while trying to protect his friends. 9 years later, his act of heroism lives on in Youngstown, with his name on a street sign called Jamel E. Johnson Drive, which now sits above Indiana Avenue. Johnson's mother said his character still resonates with people in the community after all this time.
All of it was just overwhelming. The love and the support, Julius and Mo, the whole community. People still today comes up to me and just tell me what kind of man he was, But you know that, but that don't mean everybody else know that. So his years on this earth to me was short, but he did what God called him to do.
A lifelong friend of Johnson's wanted the city to remember his act of heroism and for it to never be forgotten. He worked with the city council to create a street sign in his honor.
Her son was loved, by a lot of people he came in contact with. And so therefore I wanted this to be a gift to her. And I hope I've done her proud.
Definitely.
Johnson's mother hopes to remember this day no longer as a tragedy, but a remembrance for Johnson's act of courage.
The plan that his mother has is she doesn't want any trash or any thing out of place, any dilapidated homes. She doesn't want anything on that street. So every year she decided we're gonna go back there and clean it up, make sure it's good, plant some things. And I think that's what he would have wanted.
Amanda George, Jambar TV.
Now, one thing about that is you did see some camera movement in there when she followed the sign. Generally it would be better if you just have a still shot that's a little bit wider that shows us that. And then also there was some involuntary camera movement in there, I think, because it was shot not using a tripod. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about when we meet with Professor Donchis, that it is always preferred that you have a tripod to shoot your material. Sometimes you might find where you need to shoot something with your own phone camera, if it is good enough quality. We do have some attachments for that. It's my understanding in the lab, so you'd still want to try to use one of those. Or if you have one at home, it's always optimum to do so because it really makes a difference. No matter how still you try to be, you're going to get movement in your shot. And again, that's just something that can distract the viewer, and you don't want that either. So, and I think,
And I'm
I
Thomas.
don't know why this keeps doing that. Okay, so this last is showing you some of the pictures, because you're going to be taking pictures as well to go with your stories for the Jambar. And you always want to have something that obviously reflects your story, moves your story forward in some way. These are kind of nice because they aren't posed with somebody actually looking at the camera, although there is a place for that within some stories. But like you see in this top one, talking about students using social media. Actually seeing them using social media is a great thing. If they're staring at the camera, it doesn't quite communicate it the same as having these shots, does it? And they're still smiling. They knew they were being photographed, but it makes a difference to telling that visual element of the story. When it comes to sports, I know some of you will probably be assigned a sports beat. We have some different sports beats. Oftentimes, YSU's sports department does provide us with photographs, and they have a professional photographer who takes pictures at events with equipment that's far superior to ours, which is great. And it's somebody who's been doing it a long time who can get some really great shots. But some students have taken their own pictures and gotten some fantastic shots. One actually from last semester has gotten some outstanding shots on the field and things like that. So by all means, if you can take your camera and do it, but when it comes to movement, it is very difficult to get a shot where you're not having something blurred within the shot from that. So there are things we can do to help out with those. And then obviously, again, you see Polini, that was such a big story for us when we were putting things together for this presentation. And you can see how he's really in focus and the material behind him is out of focus a little bit because it tells us, how important that story is about him. So, if you have any questions about that, there's obviously a lot of help online with framing your shots. If you still have your textbook from News One, I'm sure that there's information in there about it. Again, we can help you do that, get some ideas. We usually tell you that when you're doing your story, what our ideas are, what would make good shots for both still shots and B-roll. Once again, if you ever have any questions about anything, it's better to ask first than have to go back and fix later. So ask me, ask Abigail, ask Sydney. We are here for you to help you out to get the best thing for your stories. Okay, that's it for this. Yeah, I just need to get out of it. No, I can't seem to get out of it.